It's morning huddle time. Jeremy, thank you so much for being here this morning, man.
You're welcome. I think it's morning. It's still dark here in California, but
Right, I was gonna say, you're. Did you do the all nighter? A Red Bull fueled just.
no, we talked about that. And to your advisement, that was not a good plan. I took a couple hour nap.
That, there you go. That's not
Yeah,
bad. Couple hours
yeah.
a night. That's all anybody usually gets, right?
Fine, whatever. I'm a gamer.
I really appreciate you being here. This is awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
Um, so we were talking a little bit. We were talking football just a little bit. I saw that helmet behind you. You're begging for and I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
right there.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's one of those things, man. One and done is so difficult for football, but I know there's a lot of hurting fans right now. I'm currently one of them. But credit to the Niners. They whooped us and we didn't deserve to win. I'm not whining about the call or anything like that. Whatever. But it's now it's next season I gotta wait till. So that's a little rough.
it got really exciting there at the end, man. I
It
was, I
did. I
was,
like their compete in the end, I guess.
yeah. I mean, look, it's I'm a Steelers fan, and we did not compete. So,
No, not really.
no, not really.
No.
Though we all saw that coming. That was at least we were
Yeah.
like, all right, we made the playoffs. One more week to get destroyed by the Niners.
And
Or
to
I'm sorry,
say
by the Chiefs.
goodbye to Big Ben too. He's got to go bye bye.
Yeah, he's got good dude.
Yeah.
He's our guy, but
Yeah.
he's got it's time to hang him up. It
Yep.
is time. He knows that. That's good news.
Yeah.
So we're the joys of live streaming.
Yes.
I just got a text from Stacy. She's got kids stuff she's wrangling through. Oh, there she is. I almost got away with not telling the
Thanks,
Stacy
Stacey.
story. Thank you so much, Stacy. I know it was hectic this morning.
I know. I hope I didn't panic you.
Yeah, I'm sweating. But what else is new?
Not me, not at all.
Yeah,
I know, of course. Nice
Jeremy's
to meet you, Jeremy.
Jeremy's like, I'm way too tired to sweat. I'm good to go. All right. So we're getting started just a minute or so behind where we normally would at this point. So I'm going to push forward and jump in. So I'm your host, Chad Prinky, alongside my partner and producer, Stacy Holzinger. I think, and we have our guest today is Jeremy Owens. And Jeremy has a couple of cool things going on. I'm going to let him tell you about. But today's session, or today's show, that is geared around the importance of having a contractor peer network, a contractor peer group that you can lean on, of trusted people, and the impact that has when you do and you don't have a peer group. And so, just as always, Stacy is going to engage with our live viewer audience, and please ask questions along the way. Engage with Stacy. Stacy's job is to capture the best and most interesting thoughts and questions from our audience, and pose those in the final minutes of our session. So, Stacy, anything you want to say before I pop into my conversation with Jeremy?
I'm just excited about, what you're going to bring to the table today. I know a lot of people over the years have wanted some type of community, digitally, or, they looked for LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups to meet construction people, and we could not find something like that. So I'm interested to see what you're going to share with us.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, here we go. So, Jeremy, U.S. Construction Zone, which I know isn't your only gig, but is something that is obviously near and dear to you.
Yes.
Give us a little bit of the background. What is U.S. Construction Zone, and give us a little bit of background on you.
Yeah, sure. I grew up in remodeling. I'm the third generation, so I own a remodeling business in Folsom, California called Three Generations Improvements, and we do siding, windows, decking out here. It's been a awesome family business. I work with my dad. My grandpa has since retired, and unfortunately, we lost him this last year. Been a very blessed to have a family business and a dad that I totally admire. So been enjoying that part of my business and that part of my experience. And like I said, we have roots started from the 50s. My grandpa started in 1956, my dad in 72, and myself in 2002. So it's just been a long history. It's been in my blood. Enjoyed remodeling every step of the way. U.S. Construction Zone came kind of on the heels of I went to a trade show, and we were kind of doing a roundtable with other remodelers. And on the way out, we were exchanging business cards, and a gentleman from Tennessee said, "Hey, you know what? I wish there was a better way for us to connect through the year, and chat about these things." And that kind of idea popped in my head and just kind of rolled around there for a little while. Pandemic hit, our connection point really went away. And I was thinking, man, as an executive, we don't really have a construction focused group. There's everything. There's LinkedIn. There's so much to do, but not really specific to us. And so I really started developing it during the pandemic is when I really ramped up development, and just launched in October, and it's been a fun ride.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this combination of long-time multi-generational family business, and then launching this new endeavor of U.S. Construction Zone to create better ways for contractors to connect.
Yeah.
Leads to really what you and I are so interested in talking about here this morning, which is on some level the iteration of the contractor to contractor network over the years. And you've got a chance to see it firsthand, I'm sure, hear about it, countless stories and examples over the course of time. Our parents and grandparents were so much more networked in the business community in a really grassroots way than I'll call it our incoming generation is. What did that look like when you think about your dad and your grandfather? What did their peer networks look like?
Oh man, you're right. I mean, with no internet, if you weren't out, skin to skin, saying hi to people, you didn't have a network. So it was Rotary Club meetings. It was, local community center mixers. It was multi-level marketing. It was like all of these things is what I grew up. I mean, that's just how you met people. And then, it's funny, this thing, probably if we have some young people listening, they had what's called a Rolodex. And the Rolodex is where they stored their contacts. That's where you would meet somebody, you'd get a business card, you would write, their information, you'd write where you met them, and you would say, hey, call this person if you need X advice. And that's how they had their contacts. And they had a daily planner, and they, it was just so strange because watching what they did to hustle was so much more different than what we do to hustle. I mean, it was, like I said, you had to be actually face to face with somebody before you had a network connection. I mean, unless you went to a trade show, you had to get involved in the community. And unfortunately, I don't think there's a lot of involvement anymore. Like just, from a local mixer standpoint, I don't really see that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm close with several different associations in the building industry. There's no question that associations are talking about the importance of engaging the next generation, and the I guess sort of natural pushback that the younger generation has toward these types of what I'll call grassroots, in-person, physical, local networks. That it is different now. That in your grandfather, if he wanted to, if he ran into a challenge in his business, whether it was in the field or whether it was a business-oriented challenge, he picked up the phone. He flipped through the Rolodex. And he
picked up the phone without hesitation. Yep. Yeah, how weird is that the phone was the only way to connect, really? I mean, unless you had a coffee meeting, it was like you had to pick up the phone to set up anything, right? I mean, the funny thing too, I would ride with my dad on calls, and he had a bunch of quarters in his pocket, and there was quarters in his car, and you would have to, he'd know where all the best payphones were. I got to stop off and make a call. Like, how weird is that? Like, just the roll of quarters. I mean, we didn't have cell phones, and he had the first giant brick phone, in the car, and that was wild. But it's just so strange how in 3 generations the business there's nothing that looks similar.
Yeah, it's evolution did not prepare us for this speed.
No.
For what we're dealing with now and adjusting to. So for all the benefit, for all the upside that we get from technology and the benefit that I can just pull out my new phone this is not a phone this is a device that attaches us to the world, and it's a powerful tool. It's a wonderful tool. This is absolutely not technology bashing, but that same situation, I run into a business problem today. I'm much more apt to Google it.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And when you think about the number of questions that are just totally inappropriate to try to get answered by a search engine.
Right.
That's where the value of the peer network still exists, right? Like that's where so yeah, I mean, if I'm interested in how am I going to convert this metric measurement to an empirical measurement system, Google is fantastic for that.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Or any number of your apps are fantastic for that.
Yeah.
But if I'm interested in when is it the right time for me to hire a VP of operations?
Right. Totally right. I mean, Google for me is so much more salesy than it used to be, and there's a lot of search engines, right? I mean, using Google loosely, but you go to Google for some of these executive questions we have, and you're going to get sold. It's going to be businesses, it's going to be apps, it's going to be things that basically you have to pay for to get what your question is, and you're not going to get a peer that's going to come out and say, hey, I can help you with that. Ping me. There's no people on there, and so this is really the idea. Is like we need that people connection, and a personal thing is as close to personal as you can get without skin to skin thing, and that's where I'm headed.
Okay, so enter social media. Now social media has obviously blown up in the past 2 decades. How has social media filled the gap, and what are some of the I guess risks associated with trying to fill that peer network need in a social media platform?
Yeah, it was strange. 2003, MySpace was invented, and it completely changed the landscape. From then on, it was like a mad dash, and obviously, the writing was on the wall that we were going to change the way we communicated, and that's when the inflood of all the other different social media apps came out. And really, unfortunately, it was a mad dash to get connections. It was like, I want as many connections. I don't care what industry. I don't care if we have any similarities at all. It was just like, I want to have 1,000 people, And so what happened was wherever you went in socially, you just wanted to get a lot of connections, and whether that was LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. And unfortunately, what that did is that did not prepare us for a pandemic. It did not prepare us for having political discussions. It prepared us to fail. We set ourselves up to have this fake social media persona, and unfortunately that's not real. And I think it's crumbling right now. And I think that I'm kind of glad it's changing a little bit. So I think it was not a great way to network.
I've had some visibility into, speaking about the building industry. There have been attempts, and I think with varying levels of success, there have been attempts to create communities, online communities within these social media platforms. Heck, we're in one right now, right? Which is that in on LinkedIn, in Stacy and my sphere of relationships, we, I think if you looked at my connections, it'd be 94%, building industry people, that we've got these very, I think, personalized kinds of communities inside these broader social media outlets.
Sure.
And I think there have been some that have been successfully created. I think there have been some that fizzled. And at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest challenges that people have in social media is sorting out who is credible. So when I need advice and I want to turn to an online peer network, where do I turn and who is actually credible? So talk about how U.S. Construction Zone fills a different kind of need. Give us a little bit of a context on that.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're right that there's groups everywhere. I think that it's been hard to get traction. I think part of the difficulty is that social media in itself is very distracting. So, you have a subset group in there and before you know it, you're getting all these pop-ups and there's messages flying at you and it's just hard to focus. It's just a very broad group. And so when you're within like LinkedIn, for example, you have real estate agents, you have building industry, you have your mom, all these people that are out there and pining for your attention. And unfortunately, there's a lot more ads, there's a lot more push, there's a lot more bots and things that are coming your way that aren't even real people. So I think that that's distracting. So what I wanted to do with U.S. Construction was say, you know what, it's for all aspects of the construction industry, all, really executives, management level people to come together in one place. And then eventually I want to have the members enough where we can create those subsets of, hey, I want to create a siding and window group, or I want to, get a little bit more personal with these folks. But to the credibility piece, it's just going to take time. There's no way you're going to get a message from someone and just go, I trust it. You're going to just have to get to know these people on a personal level. And that's going to take a little bit of time. That's going to take a little bit of back and forth. And before you take that as, as a good advice or bad advice. But ultimately, you just have to spend some time and invest in other people. And I think that's what needs to happen if you're really going to have a robust networking group.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. I think, I'm excited about what you're doing. I think, creating a space where I know this is for people who are trying to accomplish the same things I'm trying to accomplish, that we're not going to get on there and end up having a political discussion, or we're not going to end up on there, arguing about sports or whatever.
Right.
But it's a very specific place where I can go to get my needs met. So when I want to talk about what kinds of insurances I should be carrying, or I want to talk about how people are navigating new compliance rules in my jurisdiction, or fill in the blank, that this is a place where I could potentially go ask my questions and find people, who have a high likelihood of experiencing those things, caring about those things, and then when I see the advice, credibility to me is like, it's such a fascinating concept that I know for me, when I have anointed someone in my own brain, right. with just ultra credibility, like whatever they say on a certain issue, I won't research. I'm just gonna do it.
Right.
And there are people, I think if all of us think about it, we have people like that in our lives, and that's a gift. I mean, it's such a gift because it accelerates our ability to make decisions and to make right decisions, and things along those lines. So what I'm hearing you say is, as it relates to credibility, it's not, that's something that has to be earned. There's no fast forward button on earning credibility. And I happen to agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, you said it perfectly. I mean, I struggled myself with a network when I was coming up. I mean, being a business owner, I felt alone a lot. I'm on an island, right? I have this decision to make, and I look to my left and my right in my business. I can't really ask them. So I have struggled with having real mentors. Really, that's what the word for me is. I want mentors. I want, like you said, if it comes to marketing, I want to call this guy. If it's an HR thing, I know I have this gal. So now it's like you have an actual network of people supporting you in your business decisions. And if you don't have that, then you have Google, and then you learning it yourself. And I just don't have time, especially now, to go learn something new. I don't want to. I'd rather ask somebody that's been there and done that, and have actual people that I can network with to make decisions. And
so if we do it right, I think what you're saying is that rather than thinking of technology as I use technology instead of going to, Rotary events and building a network, right?
Mhm.
What I think we're saying is that if we do it right, we can actually use technology to accelerate that process and not to replace it.
Right.
Right. But because at the end of the day, having person to person, individual, highly trusted relationships of mentors, partners, friends, advisors that you're
Right.
able to surround yourself with is the actual human beings behind it, not Google searches, is
Right.
something we desperately need.
Right. Yeah, and it's cool. Almost everybody that's in the network now, I've had a Zoom call with. Like that. That's been one of my strategies. Is when someone asks or I ask them, I take every meeting. I take every meeting, and I just meet people. And I don't know if I don't really know them. I don't know if they're going to bring me any value. But every single time they do, they say, "Hey, I want to put you in touch with this person," or "Oh, this idea." And then I've been able to network people together. I've been able to say, "I have someone for you for that." And so that's part of the strategy is I am investing a little bit in people. They're investing in me, and it's just creating all these win-wins around me. And it's super rewarding.
So obviously you're the founder of this thing, and while I think that's an impressive step, I'm also not surprised to hear that you're making that kind of investment, right, in your network. But I have as a member,
Mm-hmm.
how do I be a good member? How does somebody be a good member of a peer community, of a peer network?
Yeah, I think, like I said, you got to show up. You got to spend some time. You got to, ask questions, answer questions. I think they're seasoned veterans in construction that have a lot to offer, and they're maybe in a different position than a lot of us are, where maybe they can carve out 15 minutes a day to be helping a fellow contractor to get to the next level. I think there's some of us, like maybe in my generation, that I'm still need to soak up more knowledge. I'm not there. I'm not a finished product. So I'd rather, I'd rather ask questions right now.
Yep.
But I think everyone's in a different place, but you have to spend some time and, like I said, invest in some people, and I think you'll get it back. I'm certain of that.
I'll say this one last bit, and I want to bring Stacy in because I know we've had some great engagement from the audience this morning. I try, and anybody in my personal life knows that it's something that I talk about privately a lot. I try very hard to stay a learner and to stay, and to recognize there are so many things I don't know. One of the ways I think I really appreciate when people engage in a peer-to-peer environment is with humility, where they're sharing their experience, where they're sharing their perceptions, where they're sharing how they view things, but where they also have the awareness to recognize that may not be universally true, and it may be unique to their experience. And I think anytime I hear somebody give advice, myself chief among those, right? Anytime I hear me give advice, and anybody give advice, I always try it always resonates best with me when it has that layer in there of room for error, right?
Sure.
And recognition that it's an opinion or a personal experience and not a hard and fast mathematical equation.
Totally right. I have two teenage daughters, so 100%. I can't just give advice anymore.
Right? Yeah, you've got to get very artful with how you
Yes, I do. Yes,
with getting teenagers to care about what you're saying. Yeah,
exactly.
that's awesome. Stacy, I know we've had a lot going on in the chat this morning. I think you got more than you bargained for with some of those questions. Great work. I'd like to hear some of the things that we have going on from the audience.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. So residential, commercial, they're kind of two separate worlds. Does your platform cater to both of them, or does it geared towards, one or the other?
Yeah, so good question. This is for all aspects of construction. So any field, if you're commercial, you're residential, I want them all, because eventually, like I said, I want to be able to create more of those private communities. So I have the ability to create private groups as well. So for those trade organizations, or those maybe it's a business or that wants to have a private community as well. That's invite only, then you can have that too. So I want to get to the point where really we're talking about executive things, and you'd be surprised how similar a lot of those things are, no matter what part of the industry you're in. I mean, you could be in distribution, or you could be a remodeler, and you're having problems with employees. There are very similar things that's going on right now: labor shortage, supply issues. Those are all common. So I think that there's a little bit of it's just the construction industry right now is so fractured with, like, hey, I need to be a member of this trade organization and then I can get in that forum, or I need to buy this software and then we can get in this is inclusive. And so I want it to be inclusive to start, and then be able to narrow down into that private community as we go.
So another question is, this comes up a lot before when people were trying to find communities online, just as you're doing. The groups end up getting spammed with like tons of, just sales pitches. So how do you filter that kind of thing? So, we're actually focused on thought leadership.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's very explicit in my communication with people, is that this is a peer network. This is a person-to-person thing. There's not, there's no bots that's possible. There's no, if we find somebody get there, and luckily I haven't had that yet, then I'm going to have a personal conversation about, hey, if you have something to offer, then you need to, maybe ask it in a different way. You need to say, hey, I would like to get some feedback on this I'm working on, or, instead of it being like, you spamming people. And so far it's been really good, because my communication has been like, I don't want it to be like LinkedIn, where you feel like you're being, partly sold by a large amount of the audience. I don't want that. So it's very explicit in my communication with people that this is really about a person-to-person, people-to-people conversations.
Another question too, we were talking in the chat about, there's various types of software up there, and people like to search on the internet for problems and how to come to a resolution. And this one, extracad.com, I believe, is a forum for everyone that uses this particular software. So they can, I don't know if your platform has like a search engine where if I'm struggling with something, I can put in keywords and then find a conversation where someone solved the problem already, or
that's what's cool about this is going to be a little mini construction Google. I mean, once we have, and not only that, I have articles from all different aspects of construction in the feed constantly. So you're being fed information, and then yes, there's a search engine that says, hey, does anybody use Home Advisor, or whatever the question may be, and you will get articles and you will get comments already about that topic. So I do want it to be very useful. And then eventually this year, we're going to be having, education pieces come. We're going to partner with people who are educating business owners. And we want to make it so that it is valuable. This isn't just a social thing. This is something that I want people to leave and say, hey, that helped me, that helped my business. That's really what I'm looking for.
Cool. Yeah. That's all I got for questions.
I just wanted to comment that, there's and I can certainly fall prey to this. I don't know if our parents would have fallen prey to the same traps, or if this is something that is, newly developed. This for as reliant as we've become on, Google as an example, that's obviously, a generalized term for utilizing the internet to search solutions to our own problems. As reliant as we've become on that, what it's also given us to some extent is a sense of independence, that, I'm doing my own research, and I'm identifying solutions to my own problems, and I'm reading up on these things, and I'm becoming qualified to solve these problems. And as a business owner, or frankly, anybody, but in the context of being a business owner, one of the things that cracks me up is, you're solving, you're taking all this time to become an expert to solve a problem that has been solved thousands of times before,
right,
by really, really smart people.
right.
And I really appreciate the gusto that you're out there trying to solve your own problems.
Yeah.
But for the love of God, turn to the geniuses around you.
Yeah.
And save a massive amount of time.
Right.
And have the humility to just steal somebody else's stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and 9 out of 10 of those people failed. They learned with failure. They did not learn because they figured it out. They learned because they stepped in a giant landmine.
And I think there is a big lesson that entrepreneurs today need to learn, and not everybody, obviously. This is, I don't want to make my problems everybody's. This is clearly one of mine. But it is just having that awareness of what you are and are not expert in, and what it does make sense for you to invest on becoming expert in, and what it just makes sense to just find out what the experts do.
Yes.
And so I love what you're doing, man. I think creating this kind of online forum gives us opportunities to create some individual relationships. I know that Stacy and I have both created some wonderful individual relationships as a result of doing the morning huddle. Where people who have engaged through the the online community have become one-to-one in-person friends, and so I look forward to your success story on putting more of that stuff together, and I think it could be really complementary with some of the stuff that my company Wellbuilt's doing. With we have in-person peer group environments. And I'd be really interested in finding ways to link up and find ways to complement.
Sure, I know a networking guy.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
All right, great. Thank you so much for being here. Any parting words for us, Jeremy?
No, I just I appreciate the opportunity. Like I said, taking every meeting and being very present for people. It's been, like I said, it's been so rewarding for me. So whatever happens with U.S. Construction Zone, I'm already feel like I've gotten more out of it. So I'm, like I said, I'm just like on this weird ride, and it's like a roller coaster, but I'm having a good time. So I guess I must be doing something right.
Very good. Thank you so much. Stacy, anything that you want to say before we jump?
Well, we have one more episode left, right?
Yes. So next week we're going to be talking about change order management. And it's going to be a fascinating discussion with a company that actually gets hired, with the head of a group of a company that actually gets hired to manage change orders and project controls, actually, for large scale commercial projects. It'll be fascinating discussion about how to simplify the change order process, how to avoid conflict, and probably most importantly to everybody who watches, how to get paid. So let's make sure that you visit us for that final episode of this season. We'll be taking 2 months off, and we'll be back at the beginning of April. So we'll be wrapping up here next week. Thanks again, Jeremy. Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see everybody next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.